Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about how you can remember all of the books that you read. Throughout our life we read so many books and we tend to forget a lot of them as the years pass, as the months pass. It has happened with me, it has happened with almost all of you, I'm sure. So today we are going to be sharing some important techniques which will help you retain these books. These techniques have worked for me because I personally have tried all of them, and which is a technique that I'm recently and currently using. I will share that as well. Yes, without much blabbering, let's get started. So I have four techniques basically that I have used over my reading journey over the years, and which have helped me, and some of them are efficient but some of them are not so efficient. So the four techniques that I'm going to be talking about today, which I have personally used, are first, highlighting the things on your book or underlining them, making markings. Second is using sticky notes or flags to mark out each pages. Point number 3 is keeping a book journal or a reading journal where you write down your summary and notes. And the fourth one is something which I've recently started adopting and I'm loving it, frankly. It's the method where you take notes on your phone, on Keep, on Notion, or any of those apps online. So let's talk about the first point, which is highlighting or underlining notes and points in your book. For this technique, what I generally used to do is use a marker like this. It's a highlighter actually, and what you can do is just take your book and mark some important points, or you can use a basic pencil or pen and underline any points that you feel are important in your book. And if you're reading a Kindle, of course, you have the highlights option over there where you press or hard press on any line and then it gets highlighted, and these highlights can also be imported into your emails or any of the other apps later on. That is a feature that you get when you use highlights on Kindles. Whereas if you're highlighting something on your book, it is not so efficient because the highlights and the markings always remain in that book, and frankly you never go back to them. Maybe sometimes you know which book has what point and you just go and open it, but then it's again a tedious process to go and turn the pages and search as to where the points were, and then you're lost, and then the points are lost, and there is no point. So that is one inefficient thing that I found in this method. The second technique that we're talking about is using sticky notes and markers. These are my favorite because I get to use all these stationery. But what this technique helps you with is that, say you're using technique number 1 where you highlight and underline points and keep in your book, you can immediately put in a marker or a flag like so. And then what happens is you can just pick out the book and scroll out to that point, and then you can come here and it lets you know what were the important points on that page. So of course I haven't highlighted anything here because it's a new book, but I do take sticky notes as well over here. So what you can do is put the flag, put a sticky note, write the important points from that page, and that way again you have some placeholder which helps you understand that okay, there was something important on this page, and I can of course go back and read it once again. But again, even this one has the same kind of flaw in it, that you do put sticky notes, you do put all the flags and the markers and the placeholders, but then again, when are you going to go and read it? Because the books, again, when I go and put my book in on my bookshelf, I'm going to stow it away in this manner, and then it's again lost and it remains over there. But still, it's a much more efficient technique than the point number 1 at least. So I do use this even today, for my non-fiction books at least, so that if I ever want to go back, I still know there is some important point on that page. Point number 3 is where you maintain a separate notebook which you call your reading journal, your book journal, where you take down points. So I used to maintain a book like so, where I always read the book, and if I found any important points, I should just put it down in markings over here on the pages. So this technique is again efficient, I feel, compared to the first two. Because you at least have a separate dedicated page or a repository where you put down your favorite quotes, you put down the important sayings from the book, some takeaways that you have, and you have a summary of what you've read and you write that down. Of course, it's a little time consuming compared to the point 1 and 2, but what you can do is, or what I used to generally do is, I put the markers and the highlights right in the, as mentioned in the point 1 and 2, and then at the end of the day I used to set a separate dedicated time for my book journaling. So what I did was, I used to go back, open the book, read those highlights, and then just write down my summary or my understanding from these points that were already mentioned and highlighted in the books. So what happens in this technique is, why it is more efficient is, they say that whenever you write something down in your own handwriting, it helps you retain that knowledge in a much better way and for a much longer time. So when I write down something in a book journal like this, it's not only that I have a repository to go back to, but it's also imprinted into my mind for a longer period of time. Now, there is also one con for this. The problem is that I may not have my book journal at all times on me, right? If I'm reading my book and say I'm in a train and I'm reading a book, or I'm traveling somewhere and I'm reading a book and I forgot to get my book journal along, and I'm like, oh my god, what do I do now? I do not have any place to take my points down. In that way, your points have like just stayed away, and you don't put it in your book. Mainly when you go on vacations, I tend to forget this, or you don't have enough space in your luggage and you don't carry this, then the points again remain in your book itself, because once you come back, you're so bored of coming back that you don't tend to put it into your book, or for whatsoever reason. Sometimes the points tend to not move from your placeholders to your journal. So now this brings me to the point number 4, and which is my current obsession, and I love this technique. The point number 4 is where you take down notes on your phone, iPad, MacBook, your tab, your whatever, you take it down anywhere but in a digital format. And point number 4, it's very simple. What you do is you're reading a book and you suddenly realize that, okay, this point is something that is very resonating to me, and it is something that I want to understand and relate to in the future. So what do you do in this point is that you simply take your phone and start jotting down the points that you read in this book. So what I do is I generally put it on a Notion page. So Notion is this amazing app which we will talk about some other time, but you can create pages here and just start jotting down the points that you have read from the book. So currently I'm reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and any point that I understand and I like in this, I write it down under this book section, so that I can always go back to it anytime. I can access the page from my phone, from my tablet, from my iPhone, from my iPad. I can access it from the MacBook, anywhere at any point in time. So whatever, at every point in time, you will have some device close to you, right? If nothing, you would definitely have your mobile phone. So just pick up your phone, write down the point on your phone, and then you have it right there, and you can access it at any point in time. And if you remember, in the point number 1, I mentioned that if you're using a Kindle, you can always jot down points or highlight points in the Kindle itself. Kindle gives you this feature where you can import or export all of these highlights to another platform, and then again you'll have one repository where you can read all your highlighted points. So generally you can mail it to yourself, and that is another way that you can have all of your important points accessible easily. So those were my techniques to retain the books. I think the point number 4 is something that I have recently started exploring it, but I am enjoying it thoroughly compared to the first 3 techniques. I still go back to the first 3 techniques on and off, but I generally like to keep my books neat and tidy, so that's why I don't like highlighting my books anymore. I used to do that when I was back in college, but nowadays, since I like to keep my books spick and span, I think the technique number 4 is the best technique for me. Do try out these techniques and let me know which one works for you well. Also, if you have some other techniques that helps you retain a book for a much longer time and helps you remember the books that you're reading, do let me know in the comment section below. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video thoroughly. I enjoyed making it, and I hope this video helps all of my fellow bookworms out there. So do check it out, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you are new here. Also hit the bell icon so that you can be notified about my upcoming videos. That's all for today. See you in the next video again. Toodles. Bye bye.